hope you can hear me loud and clear. My name is Bernhard. I'm the front-end lead developer from Styria Digital Services, a company within the Styria Media Group. And the Styria Media Group, as you might know, is a big publisher in Austria. And it has print magazines, and online sites. And my team is responsible for die-Presse.com, Austria's daily newspaper. There was, before we were talking about favorite properties, favorite color. I will do that now. So, my favorite CSS property is outline. It's so helpful in many ways. And my favorite color is deep pink because you can see it very good. So, yeah, I'm going to talk about CSS grids here today. Fun fact, almost 4 years ago, I was talking about CSS grids too, but how to do grids with the SUSE mixing library. Does anybody remember this?
Yes.
SUSE mixing. So, 4 years ago, we did a relaunch for the Presse, and we built a grid system with floats. Last year, we did a relaunch, and we built a grid system with the native CSS grid module. And we learned a lot of things. Everyone on the team was new to the CSS grid framework, and you can see it on closer inspection that we learned, built upon what we have learned. So, without further ado, I'm going to show you our article page. So, does everybody know die-Presse.com? We're looking here at my test article that utilizes many of the features we're showing on our website. Let's just jump into our grid setting for the header. I prefer Firefox because it has a really, really nice grid debugging layout functionality. It's really, really very helpful. So, what we can see here, we set this up like this. We did the header, but we refactored the header a little bit after our first implementation. There we are using those grid template areas. Is anyone familiar with CSS grid? Working, everybody? Good. So maybe there's nothing new for you right here. So this is our header. We set it up with the template areas. As I was taking a look today, what I'm going to show you, just figured out how I could make it much more easier with the grid template areas. It's ridiculous to repeat it that often. So that was the header. We did that later. And here, this is our body, where we didn't use the grid areas, just have these template columns and main columns, which is somehow impractical because it's not that nice to position items within this grid. With some specials here regarding our images that break out from the grid. So our editors have options in the CMS to select different image styles, and these image styles are allowed to break out of this main content column. So for this type of image, use the syntax. And there's this full width image. Which spans the whole body. I'm not sure if you can make this with grid template areas, because you have the content column and then a side column. You still have to resort to this syntax to span it across the grid.
Wouldn't be that easy because you have sort of content going down, and you
Yes.
never know what's going to be in it exactly, because that's coming from the CMS.
Yes. But what's the question?
I'm basically thinking out loud. Is that I can't think of a way to make it that flexible with template areas.
No, not really. Not really. But it works quite good for this options. Sometimes we have issues that it might collide with the advertising area that's around here, and then you just have to step back, put this image in the next paragraph. There's another option. This is just a regular image. It's within the content column. There's this option, which is quite funny because in the CMS editors can align these pictures left or right, but we implemented just the left option. Because with the left option we can add these styles for the following paragraph. So this paragraph will be placed next to it. If we put it over there, we don't have a way to grab the paragraph before to put it on the left side. So that was easy with floats, not that easy with grids. So maybe we just parse, one day we'll parse our HTML and add a class to the preceding element and the class to the following element. Yes. So this is the grid for the article. And also use grids for overview pages. So we learned things there, and we were using more grid template areas there. Also using this syntax, which I will try to shorten the next run. We also have this auto fit. I think it's here. Auto fit, auto fill property. You never know the difference. Just throw the properties on it and see what happens. So this was a lot of try and error. Oh yeah, we have this min-max declaration. So if the screen is smaller, just have these items aligned on top of each other. And if there's enough space, these items can occupy this place.
Do you do progressive enhancement? Do you do a fallback for that?
No. So our fallback is, it's a column layout in EA11. Just checked before, there are about 2.5 EA11 users. And I think only one complained. At least I had just heard one complaint. Content looks good, or doesn't look good, but it's still accessible in older browsers that don't support CSS grid, and that was fine for us. We were a bit in a rush to get this thing done. Usually we were trying to finish this project in January this year, so we have more time. But then we had last year this political situation in Austria, this Ibiza, and management was thinking, well, this is a good turning point. Can we get this website done before the elections in September? And we took a look and said, yes, might be possible. We have to skip some features, but we will do it, and we did it. So quite happy with this project. I thought it might be interesting for you to see a rather big site here in Austria, publishing site, using this newish feature. worked for us. There was some resistance from the management before, also from the team, because nobody had really experience. And then I showed them how easy you can lay out stuff, you can move stuff around. It's really amazing. So when I first tried Grid, it was like, wow, how is this even possible? Everybody got the hook on it, and we just did it. That's it.
Cool. Let's do questions. We have time.
What's your browser support then?
We have the
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oliver is the name. Oliver was asking about browser support. We are supporting current browsers going back to 3 versions, and after that, let's see, you get an overlay and say, please upgrade. It was the most viable thing to do because we were in a rush and we were checking our figures. Most, or let's say half of our users come from mobile devices, so we get just a column layout, and almost the rest of them uses modern browsers. So EAF is about 2.5%, Edge, all Edge versions together, maybe more than 3 or 4%. So it's Chrome and iOS Safari.
Yes, sorry. Not strictly about Grid, but I noticed that you're using Benke.
Yes, yes.
The team at the Vepsäläinen is probably a couple of people working on the front end.
3.
In your experience, how is Benke working out for a distributed team?
So we are not distributed because we are at one place.
Sorry, but for multiple people, I should say.
It works quite good. So this is the second incarnation of our website, and we used Ben 4 years ago when we did the last relaunch. And I think most people in the team understand it.
Yeah, so everybody just sticks to the conventions and the naming conventions.
Yeah, we try to enforce it. I remember those people to try harder sometimes. No, it works for us, and I think it's a good naming convention. Also, there's still room for improvement. So I just figured recently I made a new feature and said, oh, I need this element, it looks exactly the same like over there, but it has a very specific name.
Yeah.
I should use it there. But it's constantly refactoring, and it's always getting nicer. Yes, please.
What technology did you use before Grid for the layouts?
We use the SUSE Grid framework, which is a mixing library that does the mathematics for you, and you can build your layout with mixins, SAS mixins. How's it called? You've got the container mixin, which spans a container, and then you've got the span mixins, which calculates how wide this container should be, including the scatters. So we were using this before.
Cool.
Yes. I was quite good with floats. So I think we don't have any floats in this project right now. Maybe one or two.
Do you use CSS grids on overview sites? On the front page? Or just on the other page?
No, we use it on different elements. So this was also maybe a good thing to understand for us, that we can use a grid on every element we like. So we don't span up a grid. I think the standard does it. Didn't figure it out quite right from the standard.
Kind of crazy.
That's tough after that.
Standard and peculiar. It's
Ah,
a
that's
learning
good.
curve.
No, we figured that out. We can use the grid on every component if you like.
Sorry, me again. Have you run into the need for subgrid somewhere?
And maybe it's the thing that I showed you before with the images.
Yeah.
But I'm not really aware of how subgrid works, so maybe we just had some workarounds.
It's not a thing yet, but it will be.
I know it's not a thing yet.
But I think it could come in handy in situations where you can't really work with a flat DOM structure.
Yes.
That's, for me, that's the biggest restriction right now in some grids, that you have to have direct child elements of the grid container, and hopefully with subgrid that will change.
Yeah, I hope that too. So we were happy to implement the layout with the tools or the CSS features that were available. So not really a need for it.
Cool. On which element do you use a grid? Do you have several grids integrated into each other?
I'm sorry.
Do you have several grids included into each other? On which elements do you use it? Do you use it for the full layout and then some for a smaller layout in the first?
We use it for different components. I'm going back to the article page. So we have here the whole article page.
Is it on the main element that you use it, or on the?
No, we use it on different elements. So let's take a look here. Here's the article element. So there's no grid, no special fanciness on it, nothing. So then we have the header, which uses a grid. I think this element here on top might use grid 2. The skyline uses grid 2. Which is you can see, so in other articles there might be elements placed within this skyline. So the header has its own grid. Then the article itself has its own grid, like here. There might be the subgrid would have been handy with this element here, with this image, because this image has also a grid where the caption aligns. So this might be a good use case for the subgrid. So does this answer the question?
Yeah, thanks.
Did this move your design closer to what you do print-wise? Because this has more options?
No, not at all. Not at all. So the design was very fresh from Edelspiekermann in big agency in Berlin. And we might think that some design elements trickle down to the print version. So it's possible that this will happen. So newspapers usually use grids to lay out articles, but there's no relation between this layout and the print layout, except of design elements like the logo.
Any other questions?
Will you miss the old way doing the layout with the flows? Or is it better with grids? And is the 100% everything with grids, no flows at all in this new presser code?
There's, I think, most of it is done with grids. Then we still use Flexbox, makes absolutely sense. And I think we have some floats, maybe with the comments, probably there's something floating, but there's no comment here.
Do you have text in the article copy floating around images?
No. We had this issue with the image, so there is a line to the text, so left to the text. The article just stops.
Okay, so if the text next to the image is longer, it just pushes the following paragraph down.
Would have a big white space, luxurious white space. So it's this example.
Right, then I'll have the last one, unless anyone still wants. What was it like pushing the management for such a change, and especially not having the fallback in mind when you say that you just do grid, and if not, it's hollows, not hollow.
Everyone was cool with it. So,
Cool management.
yeah, we wanted to get this website live before the elections. That was the main goal. Everybody was aware of the downsides. We said we can do that later. Later we figured behind the numbers doesn't justify the effort.
So basically, you have the grid live thanks to the elections being so.
Yes. Thanks to you. Good.
Right.
Thank
That's
you.
it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sorry, it's me again. I know I did this last time. I wasn't planning on doing anything today. Just filling in for the people who are out sick. So, my name is Max. I'm a front-end developer at in Vienna, blah, blah, blah. A colleague of mine, Louis, is also here as well. Give him a hand, give him a hand. I praise him because I'm going to mention a project that we did together, which is story.one.
Your favorite color?
What? Favorite color?
CSS color.
Oh yeah, shoot. Cool. Favorite color? I'm gonna go hot pink. Also for debugging reasons, I also do the outline 5-pixel hot pink when I need to make something stand out. And favorite property, gonna go with display flex. I like flex, but use it, whatever. Sure, so this is a project, I talked about it last time, it's called story.one, and we have this editor in there where you can write a story, and looks like a piece of paper, and yeah, you've probably seen something like this before, and this is done in a React thing called draft.js, which is a text editor based on JavaScript for the web. And we did it in draft.js because when the project was initially started, there were a lot of features like inline styling and image uploads that took a really long time to implement, and then ultimately were scrapped and didn't end up in the final production version. So now we basically have just this text editor. It has the ability to mark characters that are over the character limit. So you can only write 2,500 characters here, and that is a lot to type out, so I'm not going to show you. But they will eventually turn red, which was a hard design requirement that they should turn red. A couple of weeks ago, we looked at this thing, and we looked at it from an accessibility standpoint, and draft.js is not great with accessibility because it's all JavaScript based, and basically there's just a bunch of divs and DOM updates going on there. And also this thing is really complex. This is a huge fucking piece of React that has a lot of potential for error. And we looked at this thing and thought, hey, can we make this really, really simple? Can we save ourselves some headache and give the user better accessibility? And I whipped up this demo basically just as a proof of concept for us internally, because I thought, why don't we just make it a standard text area? I mean, it's a piece of text that goes in a field. That's a text area, right? And the only thing missing from that is that character thing where you mark characters as red. You can't do that in a standard text area. You can't select text dynamically in the text area. So I came up with this really simple idea, actually, that is, we have a standard text area that's this thing. Is that big enough, or can I scale it up? Can you see it? Alright, cool. Let's do it like this. So here's a standard text area, you type in it, amazing, and that's good enough. And then we have a character limit, I set it to 20 characters here. And how can we do this? How can we make the characters turn red when we want to? So we have this separate div that's called text display. And we do a bit of JavaScript, where on every input in the text area, we take a look at the inputted text and check if it's over 20 characters long. That's this here. And then we split it and basically just mark the overflowing portion of it in this mark tag. And then output that to that div. So if I visualize that for you real quick, let's get rid of that. Let's make this hot pink, right? Yeah. So this up here is the text area, and this down here is the div. And if I type something in here, it will be mirrored into the div down there. Easy enough. And then what we want to do is to have that overlay in the exact same position as the text area. So, right, let's just keep this. This is defined together, so they will always have the same exact styling. I left the font at a different font so you can see the difference here, but I can. Right. First thing we have to do is we have to disable the pointer events on the div. Otherwise, if I click into the field, I can't access the text area underneath. So we obviously want to do that. Then, of course, it has to have the exact same font and font size and all that. And now if I type something here, over 20 characters. Right, amazing. Yeah, and if I erase some characters from the middle or whatever, it will dynamically update. This is just a piece of text. I can make line breaks. Yeah, that's cool. Easy enough. And then we have a couple of small twists that make this really great. So my initial problem was that if I write something here, I don't want the text area underneath to show through at all, right? Because there can be inconsistencies, and we just don't want the text area type to show up. So we can set the color of the text area to transparent. But then you can also see that we lose the cursor. I'm typing in here, we don't have the cursor anymore. That's not good, we want that. And there's a CSS property I haven't heard of before, which is caret color, which specifically sets the color of that little cursor, the caret. So we can add that back in, right? So now we have that. And then we have a bit of browser-specific selectors for the placeholder text, so that type here text shows up. If I don't do that, it will be transparent as well. Yeah, that's basically it. And we did not ship this to production yet, but if we do, we can delete about, I'd say, 6,000 lines of code or something. And deleted code is my favorite type of code, so I'm looking forward to it. Great. Any questions?
Do you know what I did?
No.
In general?
Last summer or in general?
No. I did the same thing in fast lines of code. It's styling and logic and everything. Do you want to see it or?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Maybe show me after this.
Yeah, sure.
Did you do it in like vanilla JS and?
I wrote my own framework. So.
Of course you did. Yeah. Cool. Yeah, looking forward to seeing it. Any other questions?
I saw you disabled this the resizing and I don't know the scroll, so you don't have an issue with the scroll if it's not fit in the
Yeah.
in your screen.
So
Extra.
yeah. First of all, resize. That's just yeah. The resize because that wouldn't work. If I resize the text area, it wouldn't match the display anymore. And with the scroll, there's a little bit of JavaScript involved. I didn't show it for brevity, but you can have a scroll event listener and just sync these. So the display, scroll top, and the text area. So yeah, if I scroll down here, oh, I messed it up somewhere. I think I need.
You have it resized now.
Yeah, sure. That's probably it. Right, so it will match the scroll position of the parent.
I think I remember Twitter having the same problem. Check resolution.
Well, I did not because Twitter's source code is pretty much unreadable. But they have, I think they have this. Let me show you my Twitter feed.
All that free props.
They have. I don't think they mark the
Smash
text.
that follow button.
They don't mark the text red. They have this little. What?
I think they have background to it, right?
Yeah, sure. Let's look into this. If you have a look at Twitter source code, you're in for a treat. Because this is fucking insane. I'm not sure if I can figure out what they do in the area, but there's something called draft editor here.
That's Draft.js.
It's probably Draft.js. Yeah, I have no fucking clue how to read this.
CSS-in-JS.
It's what?
CSS-in-JS.
Yeah, probably.
They are cross. They use CSS-in-JS.
I mean, there is, yeah, CSS in JS, for those that don't know, they generate these classes that are unreadable to humans, but it's unique and scoped that
And
way.
it's readable to machine, and that's what matters.
Yeah, of course, because we don't want the machines to be upset. So, I think this is, yeah, there's an inline style here.
I haven't seen any actual text in that HTML yet.
There's,
There it is.
in data text is true.
True.
Yeah, I'm not sure how their solution works, but I'm pretty sure mine is shorter and.
Have you considered how 16 extra divs could improve your solution?
Right. No, I have not. I could look into that. Also, my solution, of course, is missing advertising completely, which is just a fail across the board. But yeah,
It's also blazing fast.
I'm open to suggestions. All right. So I think I can introduce the next speaker.
I would have a serious question though.
Oh yeah, sure.
So when you came up with the idea that you need to have control over what's written, and I love that clever, you just show an element that you have full control over the actual accessible element.
Yeah.
Is this your own idea, or is it coming from the Draft.js, the way they do stuff?
Oh no, Draft.js, they don't actually use a text area, which is the reason why I came up with this in the first place, because this looks, it is Draft, the same process, yeah. So they have a bunch of divs, and then, yeah, it's exactly
So that's
the same.
exactly the same
It's
thing,
exactly
yeah?
the same, cool. But there's no text area in there, and the text of this whatever I put in here is written across multiple elements with multiple classes, and it just has a bunch of accessibility drawbacks. And I just thought that the simplest solution is usually to use the default element the browser gives you. And for this, the default element would almost certainly be a text area, so I went with that.
Kudos.
Any other questions? Then without further ado, let me give you Manuel Matuzović. Woohoo!
Hi, my name is Manuel. I work for the city of Vienna, and my favorite color is fuchsia, but it's very close to hot pink. That's why I will go with aqua. And my favorite property today is box sizing. So I want to share two things. One thing I learned last time is the following. You can change the default list styling in the list, I guess you all know that, using the list style type property, and you can set it to, I don't know, square, for example. And last time Udo told me that starting with Chrome 79, Chrome accepts a string value for the list style type property. So you don't just have those predefined keywords like square or lower Roman, for example, but you can do something like this. Or this. No. No. Which is pretty nice. So I did some research, some more research, because I really like that. And I learned a few more things that I shared on my blog.
That was one of the smoothest plugs for a personal website I've seen in a long time.
Wait, I have more. This is all just about me. Okay, so it's supported in Chrome 79, Firefox 39, and you can pass a string to the list style type property, and of course also Unicode. And then I learned that there's a thing called counter style. It's only supported in Firefox, unfortunately, where you can do even more. You can define your own custom list style type. So, for example, here I'm defining this counter style called drooling, because I'm using the drooling emoji here. And I'm saying go over the list of symbols. Right now I only have one symbol, and repeat it for every list item and use a suffix. So you can see there's this emoji and the dot, because I defined the suffix, and you can also define the prefix. As already mentioned, you can also define a list of symbols. So here I defined 3 different emojis, and you can see that they're repeated only once because I defined a range, and I said go only over the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th list item. So only repeat it once, and if I left the range property away, it would just repeat the list of those 3 emojis over and over again. So this is really cool. It's unfortunately again only available in Firefox, but progressive enhancement will work out of the box. And you can see them using the prefix as well. And for those who don't know, there's the marker pseudo element. I don't know about the browser support, but I guess it's okay-ish. Okay. Firefox and Safari. Okay. So I would say for the content, so what goes into the list item, I would use counter style. And for the styling of the list item itself, so applying margin or color, whatever, I would use the marker pseudo element. That's something that I learned last time. So yeah, that's pretty cool. You can check it out. It's on my website, matuzo.at, as well. Don't laugh. As well as an article that I wrote last year about the dark side of the grid, because grid is really awesome, but there are a lot of accessibility implications that come with grid. So there are many things you have to consider when working with grid, and I wrote 2 or 3 parts. I just didn't finish the third part because I didn't care enough. But I would say the first and the second part are quite interesting if you want to learn about accessibility and CSS grid layout. Thank you very much. Have a nice evening. Oh, questions? Does anyone have a question?
What's the name of the website again?
Do you have Zoom enabled? No. Duzo.at. Or superawesome.dev. No. Please.
What was the property system Zeitwend?
Sorry?
We had a property named system.
Yeah. I'm not too sure, but you can do, for example, the way that I was using was cycle, so it just cycles over the list of symbols that you define. Where is it? Yeah, so it just cycle means that it goes over this list of symbols, and other values are numerical, alphabetical. So you can define that you have a numeric value here, and that the numeric value should be incremented, for example. But I didn't test it enough to answer that question properly. No.
Would it work for like nested lists where you have like 1.2, 1.3? So could you define a second level of custom markers?
I don't know.
Maybe just nested like the style custom, B, custom C.
Maybe wait for another blog post coming on matuzo.at.
No, I guess we'll probably need count increment for that, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Work.
I'm going to answer that question at the next meetup, CSS-in-Vienna meeting. Thanks.
So I wrote the thing, and I mean the scroll is in the wrong direction, of course. But, yeah. So let's because every single example on this page is editable, so I had to figure out how to do that, and then I have to figure out how to use the computer as well. But you have to go down table of contents and stuff. Here. That's my code editor. I think it's roughly 12 lines if I count right. It has highlighting, and I could start writing code. And you see, it sort of works. And if you were, the layout is weird. I cannot type with this thing. But the point is that if you were at the last meetup, you would know that I like to use Sidewind.js. So there's no CSS in this. It's behind the classes. And why this thing works is because I wrote a state container that persists state in the DOM. So in my solution, you define x state. Oh, it's really, let's go back. X state, that's what happens to be the initial state. You can put objects or whatever, I just put a string in this case. And the point is, as you learn from, if you had eyes open in the like I think it's two speakers back, then you would know this text area trick. So if you're following, then you would know that you can put text area on top of some background, and then you have kind of editor. So here, what I do, I capture the value from the text area, and then I put the state from that into this thing that's highlighted. And that's really the trick. All you need is state. I capture the state, put the state. And then you have editor, and the rest is this CSS trickery, like figuring out how to make this work in Safari and Chrome, and Safari takes most of the time. And then I have these things you could drop this autocomplete and whatever to make it like 5 lines, but it's but you see you don't need React to do this. So Of course, you use React because you want to get paid. If you were doing this, it will be so fast.
What a stab.
Yeah. I mean, it depends if you're like employee or consultant, so it depends.
Can you do live syntax highlighting?
Yeah, it's doing live syntax highlighting, but the layout is weird here. So that's why I just use highlight.js. It puts the state for highlight.js, and that's how we get the live highlighting here. But the layout is totally weird, and it's still a little buggy, but don't worry about it. It more or less works the way I want it. So, I mean, that's one of the constraints. If you have only 12 lines, you can do only so much. But I think it's more or less fixable, and if you look into the solution, you actually notice that you can, if you have a safe container in the DOM, you can achieve a lot. And it's quite small. I think current version is like 4K, between 4 and 5K minified. And when you cheat chip, it's like 2K. And I can optimize 1K out of that, so maybe this could be like 3K, and maybe I do some code splitting or split the modules nicely, so then the state container is maybe 1 or 2K. So it's quite light implementation of a state container for the web. But yeah, that's just my little prototype.
Nice.
Any questions or? Yeah.
One. Either.
Yeah.
How are you evaluating all the basic JavaScript you write into the attributes? Like you don't put them through evil, right?
Sort of. I put them to function. So it's I don't use evil, but I use the next less evil way, which is function. So
Less evil.
yeah. So it's sort of evil, but not. But it's enough for this, and it's mostly what I wrote is mostly meant for adding interactivity to sites. It might work for some apps as well. And when I have time, I don't have so much client work. I think I will just try to rebuild some of my sites with this. Also, I have one approach for components that's actually very close to React that uses TypeScript that compiles to static HTML. So you get sort of React, but without React, and sort of like 4K instead of 100. So it's I think there are lots of gains in this kind of approach.
Anyone else?